We discuss tens of thousands of years of battle droid history on today's Star Wars Legends lore video. Today's video is brought to you by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creators with over 25,000 unique classes in a variety of areas, from design to business to video editing and much more. Skillshare classes are designed for real life. The classes are short enough that you can take them even while doing your ordinary busy routine. The service is also incredibly affordable. You don't need to pay for each workshop or class in person, which would be very expensive. Rather, a premium membership gives you access to everything available. Again, over 25,000 courses. If you want to try it, Skillshare is giving away 2 free months of premium membership to help you explore your creativity just by clicking the link in the description box. And after that, it's only around $10 a month. Personally, I have trouble managing all of my work, so I'll be looking into real productivity, how to build habits that last, which is about goal setting, how to reach your goals, and basically the keys of productive habit forming. But again, thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Make 2020 a year where you explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity with Skillshare's online classes. Today, we'll be covering every generation of battle droids as part of my Eras series. Now, usually I do cover both Legends and canon, however in this case there's not enough information in canon to go into it, so we'll stick to the old Star Wars expanded universe. I suspect that much of what we find out today will hold anyway as the newer canon is developed. But also maybe not. Let me know after you watch this video whether you think canon will go in a similar direction as Legends. Anyway, you're probably going to be unsurprised to find out that battle droids in the Star Wars universe have a very long history. Class 4 droids, i.e. those meant for direct combat, were some of the earliest droids to actually see service in the galaxy, and they were very prominent. So when examining several thousand years worth of history in this video, my main goal will be to look at trends. And everything starts with the beginning era. Now, we know very little about the early years of the galaxy. We know that the Celestials existed and may have employed war droids for their use. I mean, they certainly had the capability, given that they were creating things like Centerpoint Station and moving entire star systems. But arguably the faction which made battle droids most prominent and relevant for later history was the Rakata. Much of Rakatan technology was powered by the Force itself, but they also plundered tech from other civilizations that they encountered, like the Gree or the Qua. It's very possible that one of those civilizations or another actually created the first of the post-celestial battle droids. We just don't know. However, it's very likely that the Rakata, through the Starforge and other means, created many battle droids, which they would have used alongside their slaves. After the fall of the Rakatan Empire, much of their technology was reverse engineered, which would pave the way for technological development across the galaxy. That brings us to our next era, which I'm simply going to call cycles. And there's an interesting quote from the New Essential Guide to Droids, which I think well describes how droid armies operate in the Star Wars universe. Droid armies become the norm until their opponents learn that mechanical warriors could easily be outthought. The basic lesson has been forgotten and relearned countless times, and the popularity of droid armies has ebbed and flowed throughout history, much depending on the willingness and availability of trained organic populations to wage war. So basically what that quote is saying is that battle droids are created in times when planets or civilizations do not want to use their own warriors to fight their battles. However, battle droids are almost always beaten by organic warriors, so they fall out of disuse. However, given enough time, the cycle will begin again. I'd also like to add an addendum to that. Sometimes it wasn't that battle droids would be outsmart by organics, but that truly competent battle droids ended up being just far too expensive for their worth. The cycle arguably started with Zim the Despot and his Guardian Corps, which arguably fell into the latter category. the Guardians were very effective, and being one of the earliest battle droid armies was a little bit surprising. However, eventually, the droids didn't prove flexible enough for Zim the Despot, and that was one reason why he and his empire would fail. As the Republic would grow to prominence and would face resurgent Sith threats, both sides would develop battle droids with different levels of effectiveness. Basically, each time the Sith would reappear, it seems like both it and the Republic would have a new battle droid type to throw into action. One example that I like is the Basilisk War Droid. The Basilisks were actually used by the Mandalorians when they were aligned with the Sith, and were a sort of all-purpose battle droid created by the Basiliskian race. Another common battle droid type was the Sentinel Droid, which was used primarily by the Republic as basically a foot soldier, but also served with the Sith and other factions. However, alongside humanoid droids, we also have droids of different design. Many of these were created by major corporations like Zerka, and we can assume, based on common sense and what we read earlier, that droid models like this would re-emerge during major periods of combat after having undergone some advancements before declining in usage again. Like I said, cyclical. I don't think it's necessary to go over every droid model of this period, and it's very difficult, especially when it comes to pre-Mandalorian War droids. But it is worth noting that because of droid uprising and just generally the fear of rogue class 4 battle droids, including assassination droids, the Republic strictly limited advancements in droid AI. However, as explained by the new Essential Guide to Droids, those had mostly elapsed by our next era, the Golden Period, which I'll say started about 100 years before the Battle of Yavin. This era of course includes the Clone Wars most prominently, but was also defined by corporations gaining massive amounts of power and the dwindling influence of the Republic. These two factors came together to allow the creation of major droid armies. By the time of the Battle of Naboo, the galaxy was already fairly wary of battle droids, not only because of their long history, but also more recent events, including the Arcanian Revolution and the events of the Kalhuru system. That being said, none of that would hold a spark to the Clone Wars, which featured the galaxy's most sophisticated and largest droid army of all time. The one used, of course, by the Confederacy of Independent Systems. The CIS droid army was not only larger than any which had come before, but also far more varied. Corporations by this point had grown to tremendous sizes, and each were producing their own battle droid models. So the Seppies had droids doing everything. They had droid starfighters, they had droid field commanders, they had droid vehicles, they had different battle droid models. However, even still, they were well opposed and eventually defeated by the Galactic Republic, although really a true discussion of the merits of each side is difficult due to the influence of Palpatine. General Grievous, of course, is also a central figure during this time. Although he wasn't strictly a droid, Grievous's ferocity and his cruelness would partially affect cybernetics and cyborgs through many years to come. Still, this era was arguably an end to the cycle that had been perpetuating for thousands of years. Finally, droid technology had appreciated to such a point where a droid army fully threatened the entire galaxy, and the Clone Wars would be used by Palpatine in this next era, which I'll call the Dark Era. Now, it is kind of funny to discuss a lack of battle droids as being a dark era, but as explained by the new Essential Guide to Droids, battle or war droids essentially disappeared after the formation of the Empire. This is due to the fact that there was incredible stigma against them, and because the Empire ruled most of the galaxy, there weren't really the same competing factions or corporations. It's my theory that Palpatine actually preferred an army created mostly of organics because of his ability to use the Force and influence them over extreme distances, but that's a topic I've covered in prior videos. However, it was also the Dark Era because during this time, the Empire heavily experimented with cybernetics. This brought us, for example, the Dark Trooper. Although the Dark Trooper project originally started out as a way to keep aging clones combat ready, it eventually molded into a program which created top-of-the-line, incredibly deadly battle droids and combat suits. The Dark Trooper project would eventually be discontinued, however it's my belief that much of the research that went into it would further inform Palpatine's Dark Empire, which used droids very heavily, from droid starfighters to cyborg fighters to a wide array of ground automata and arguably even world devastators. I'd say the Dark Empire is the beginning of a bit of resurgence, however it's still a break from the cycle because at this point, besides for Palpatine I guess, battle droids weren't envisioned as leading armies, rather they were mostly treated as extremely expensive, extremely effective warriors. I think the best example of this is the YVH, the Yuuzhan Vong Hunter, of course created when the Yuuzhan Vong invaded. And it's kind of ironic that an extremely technophobic alien race would actually spur some of the greatest droids in the galaxy. The Yuuzhan Vong were not used with swarm tactics like with say a B-1 battle droid, rather they were meant to fight Vong warriors in direct one-on-one combat. They were incredibly successful, and after the war, were adapted to all aspects of public and private life. We see, for example, the Galactic Alliance use Vong Hunters during the Dark Nest crisis, although they were modified. We see them used in private service as bodyguards, and just generally, they certainly made Lando Calrissian a lot of money. And that's basically it. We don't know as much about the Legacy era, especially the late Legacy era, but I would assume it's basically the same, with the reborn Sith Empire also using their own form of droid starfighter. But that's all I have for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, major thank you to today's sponsor, Skillshare. Again, link to their services down in the description. Anyway guys, this is all from me. Until next time, have a great one, and may the Force be with you.